Wow.
It's like you just surprised yourself. Holy shit.
I was like, whoa.
Fuck?
The demons were coming out in that one.
Demons. Just like at Five Nights. Actually, there's no really demons in Five Nights at Freddy's.
No.
I think that
the
symbolism
spirits
died
of the missing children.
Mm-hmm. Missing dead children. Do you want
or like that hand that comes out of Freddy's mouth in the movie?
Wasn't that so good though?
Yeah, holy.
That was the shot. Sorry, hi Cinema Peeps.
Hi, Cinema
anyways,
Peeps.
that was the shot I was talking to you about. How it was like half like,
boom, wreck the whole desk.
Fucking excited. But that was the shot I was referring to as like half and half. Which
I was wondering about that because after I saw the movie, I went back and watched our episode just to like kind of like piece together everything you were talking about. So I was like, I wonder if that's the scene she was talking about.
It was.
Nice.
But yes, anyways, hi Cinema Peeps.
Hi Cinema Peeps. If you haven't figured it out by now, today is going to be...
Somebody watched Five Nights at Freddy's.
Me.
And somebody was texting Kaylee being like, holy shit, what have I done? I'm in the deep dive. What is happening?
Not even that. Somebody just opened a door labeled Five Nights at Freddy's and did not realize what she was getting into when she opened that door. So
it was magical
that was
and beautiful.
Oh boy.
But yes, today's episode, which again, we're kind of a little disorganized. We're recording this, it's, before Christmas, but I think this is going to come out in the new year. So if so, Happy New Year, everybody. I hope everyone had a great Christmas and whatnot. Pew pew. But yeah, Kendra finally watched the movie, which was very exciting. But not only that, as I said, she was texting me that she has deep dived all into the FNAF lore. So we're going to talk all about that today. And I just want to show off my new sweater I got. It's not Christmas, but it has game.
Honestly, it's fitting. It's kind of fitting for today's episode.
Right? I thought it was spooky creepy, so I was like,
right?
This will work.
Right? And for anybody who's interested at all, we did do, if you don't know, we did do a Five Nights at Freddy's episode previous. I think about 4 episodes ago, 5 episodes ago, maybe after this.
Yeah. It was around Halloween.
Technically last season.
Yeah.
But we'll put it up somewhere here if you would like to reference it to see the kind of beginnings of this and where it piqued my interest into going to see the movie.
Yes. But I think we should start with your first impressions of the film.
Yes.
And then, your all the Five Nights at Freddy's lore you have now absorbed in the past less than a week, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because you texted me, I want to say it was like a couple days after we had recorded.
Yes. I believe
week.
Last Thursday was when I went and saw it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Thursday or Wednesday.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Thursday because I was hanging out with my friend and I was like, oh my God, Kendra has a whole theater to herself.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I guess I'll start off by saying that, as Kaylee just said, I did go see Five Nights at Freddy's, not intentionally having the theater to myself, but I wanted to take myself on a little solo date. Plus nobody else I knew wanted to go see this movie with me. So I was like, well, this is my opportunity to do this by myself. And honestly, I feel like I'm glad that I went by myself now, because I feel like if I hadn't gone by myself, I probably wouldn't have dove as far as into the lore as I would have.
Oh,
just having other people there. So kind of like going by myself, I was able to like really focus in on everything and like pay attention to stuff and not feel like I have to answer questions because nobody else knows what's going on, because it tends to be my role a lot of times when I go see movies.
The person who watches the most films, that is your dubbed role.
Oh yeah, yep.
That's how it be.
Yeah, but yeah, so I went to go see it by myself, and had the whole theater to myself, which was very weird, especially for a movie like this. And I'm glad that where I sat was like the middle, but the very top, because I feel like if I had picked like a middle seat somewhere in the middle, I would have been like looking over my shoulder the whole time, just like just because there's like empty space behind me. So it probably would have actually made the movie experience a lot creepier. But yeah. Regardless of that, I plopped myself down in my seat. I had my movie theater nachos and with the salsa and the cheese, and had myself a good time watching Five Nights at Freddy's.
But yeah, so going in, you kind of had not a whole lot to go off of.
No, so I knew of the first game. I knew the gist of it. I had watched other YouTubers play it. And again, like more like going into the lore and stuff like that, I do remember seeing them play some of the other games.
Mm.
Like I recognized the baby character and Ballora and all that kind of stuff. So I had seen people play those, but again, I was just like, oh, it's the new game. I didn't really know anything about like all the story connection and stuff.
Okay.
So that was what I was going off of. Was basically just like, oh, okay, this is a scary jump scare game that people play. Interesting. Let's see what they're gonna do with it as a movie.
So what did you think of the film as like if you can remember any impressions you had before diving into the lore?
Right. Okay. So to clarify, everyone, if you haven't figured it out, so literally, yeah, no idea of all this lore that I now know. So I was going into this purely from a filmmaking standpoint, not so much a fan of the games or the lore or anything. This was just like someone who likes to go see movies and is, well versed in filmmaking and wants to see what it's like. So I'll say my first impression was that I noticed how like much of a slow burn it was. So again, like not knowing any of the lore or anything like that, I was like, okay, this movie is a real like slow burn, but it wasn't slow burn in the sense that it was boring. It was slow burn in the sense that like it made me pay attention to a lot of the kind of like or like the story that was happening in the background of everything.
Yeah.
Because of course, again, in my mind, I'm going, okay, let's get to the characters, let's get to the animatronics, let's get to that like initial objective of the game where you're guarding these things and they sneak up on you and you have to like keep them from killing you kind of thing, right? So yeah. So I felt it was kind of a slow burn, but in a good way. And I just felt like, because I had no idea about this whole missing children's thing. So that being my first introduction to it as being the story in the movie, I'm like, okay, this is interesting. It's kind of like, it gave me, I don't know if you've ever seen it or if I talked about it on the podcast before, but there was a movie that came out last year maybe with Ethan Hawke in it called The Black Phone.
Oh, yes, I remember you talked a little bit about it, yeah.
So it's kind of similar premise where it's like kids go missing from this guy and there's like a whole mystery behind the whole thing. So that was what kind of drew my intrigue into it even more. So it's like, okay, this is kind of like similar to that. This is kind of cool. All right, I'm in. And then I just kind of sat back and tried to see how the whole thing was gonna unfold. I kind of recognized, a couple things here and there, but definitely not as much as you had said in our episode, or as much as I now know, knowing everything. And I thought it was cool that Matthew Lillard was in it. So like initially my first impression, like having seen the whole movie, I'm like, oh, it's like kind of meta for him because he was Shaggy. Yeah. And now he gets to be the one that's like unmasked and is like, and I would have gotten away with it if you weren't for any meddling kids.
Right.
So I thought that was kind of a cool nod.
So good.
Yeah. And then seeing Matt Pat was awesome in it. I thought that was cute. So
I was gonna say, did you end up watching the one I know had nothing to do with Five Nights at Freddy's in terms of like the lore, but the film theory where he talked about his experience on set? I did, yeah. It's adorable, but yeah. It is. But sorry, continue. It was good. No, it was really cute. So I think, trying to think, like for now that's all I can think of as far as like first impressions. Like walking away from it, I definitely had a lot of questions still because I didn't know who Springtrap was. I'd heard you mention the name before, but I had no idea who he was. So again, like he's terrifying, hands down. Like that was the definite like thing I walked away from that movie of being like, that is nightmare fuel for sure. Out of all the characters, wow, yikes. But yeah, I walked away confused as to the whole connection between Vanessa. I was trying to figure out like who Josh Hutcherson's character was connected with all this, the sister, and like it just seemed like there was a lot of open plot holes that I figured the games were gonna explain that, as someone who's the average moviegoer would kind of be scratching their head at. Yeah. But as far, I don't know, like I'd say overall, this movie's definitely good for both the fans and moviegoers, but more so for the moviegoers who have an interest in diving into the lore. Because, like, again, like looking at it on both sides, I was like, man, before I dove into all the lore, I'm like, man, it would have been really cool if they had like opened up instead of with the 8-bit kind of title sequence that they did.
I'm like, man, it would have been cool if they had opened it up with like the articles of the missing kids and like the Fazbear's closing and
Mhm.
like all the kind of stuff that kind of builds up the origins of the purple guy, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, that would have been just made it like so much more like investing, and I would have known what I was getting into watching this, and it would have kind of maybe connected some things a bit more. But as we had said before, this movie is definitely for the fans more than
Yeah.
anything. And knowing now who Scott Coffin is and all of the stuff that he's doing, like
Mhm.
there's intentions behind everything in this movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, like I still enjoyed it. As I told you on Snapchat,
Excellent.
it was kind of giving me like Gremlin vibes. I don't know why. I think it mainly just because, which I'll also note too, like I'm so impressed and really glad that they did everything as practical as they could. Like between you talking about the Jim
Right?
Henson company
Mhm.
helping create the animatronics, plus seeing Matt Pat's video of like they actually built the pizzeria itself in like an
Right?
abandoned Home Depot
Was
warehouse.
that not, like, so cool?
That just really solidified the world for sure. Like
Oh,
they
100%.
didn't cut corners with this. They
Mm-mm.
brought this world to life. It
Right?
was insane.
Which is a big I think really helped the film
Yeah.
even
Oh yeah.
more.
Yeah.
I actually haven't watched it fully yet, but, if you I guess in, because you had watched Matt Pat's video of him being on set, and he was, like, day 1 of production, so
Mhm.
there was some stuff that wasn't completed, but there's another guy, his name's Dawko
Yeah.
on YouTube. He has a video where he got to visit the set, and that one was, like they had actual, like, complete animatronics, and I think he actually got to see the spring suit in action. He actually got to
Ooh.
see it. So, I think I watched a little bit of the beginning where they were showing, the security room. So, I didn't get to the part where they were showing off the animatronics. So, I kinda wanna watch and see what it looks like in real life.
Totally. Oh yeah, that'd be
Because they
awesome.
do look so good,
They
you
do.
know?
And honestly too, like as a kid, I used to be really like terrified of like the Labyrinth movie, which it has all the Jim Henson puppets in
Mhm.
it, and like anything that had Jim Henson puppets that wasn't the Muppets terrified
Yeah.
me, basically.
You know what?
So
Fair.
knowing that like they helped create this, I was like, man, this is just like playing on childhood fears for me, first of all. But secondly, like, damn, this is awesome.
Right?
Yeah. So
Okay, there's one thing I wanna talk to you about because I didn't want to before when I did the review.
mhm.
But wasn't that scene where they were building, like, the tent in the pizzeria, wasn't that, like, this the most random, like, '80s thing ever where they're like, "Let's just build a tent," and then, like, the animatronic falls over and he's like, "Thumbs up," and I was like,
Yeah.
"What movie am I watching?" Like, I don't know, that was, like, maybe midway through the movie, I was like,
Yeah.
what the fuck is happening?" So
Right? Yeah.
you kinda said Gremlins vibe, I was like, "You know what? That kinda makes sense." Like, I never watched Gremlins just because they creep me the shit out, but I remember
Mhm.
seeing enough trailers and stuff that the gist is like, "Oh, they're really cute and fuzzy, but, like, be careful if you feed them after midnight, they come as
Yeah,
little
yeah.
monsters." So, like, that I was like, "You know
Exactly.
what? That makes sense now. That you know what? That jives. That
Right?
makes sense."
Yeah, it's very reminiscent of like that era of creature movies where it's still kind of appeasing to kids, but it's still kind of like sinister in some ways. So it's I don't know, all around enjoyable and all around kind of
Mhm.
like a cool sci-fi adventure horror, whatever you want to like
Yeah.
conglomerate together. But yeah, I did feel that way too watching it. I'm like, okay, this
That
must
part
be what she was talking about. And yeah, where like what is the point of this? Because I feel like we went from like building up the creepy, like spooky
Yeah.
stuff to all of a sudden, okay, so they're good now? Like they're friends? Like this feels like a whole different movie in the middle, right? And then it kind of like
Yeah.
switches back. Yeah.
Right. Well, I think, yeah, it's just a show, like, Abby considers them friends even though Josh Hutcherson's like, "Hey, like, this is kinda weird, right?"
Yeah.
They're possessed child things, like, maybe we should be, like, taking a step back. But again, to be fair, as you've probably dived into the lore of FNAF, like, it's not all creepy and serious, like, there is, like, really weird characters and, like, things
Yeah.
Scott Cawthon has done, so and I guess in a way it does, yeah, reflect the series as a whole in that sense.
For sure. And again, now that I've watched a lot of the lore or like learned more about the lore, like I definitely want to go back and watch the movie now that I've like learned all this stuff just to like really kind of get more of a grasp on it.
Mhm.
But thinking about it now, I'm like, okay, so knowing that like I mean they did kind of touch on it in the movie obviously, but like knowing kind of the depths of the whole like missing children's and their stuff in the suits and they're
Mhm.
just trying to get revenge for what happened. It's like, okay, so that scene kind of makes more sense now. It's like this is just them showing that they're really harmless. They're not actually
Mhm.
these terrifying creatures that the games kind of lead them to be. They're
Mhm.
just kids wanting revenge for being killed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as you've, deep dive more, it seems like there's only one child that's, really out for revenge,
Yeah.
and kind of the others are like, followers in a sense, but
Yeah.
are obviously still in that same pain.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, this is just me being a dumbass, but when I was watching the movie, I kind of missed the Golden Freddy moment. So I was curious if like when because Golden Freddy comes to the house and then kills the fucking bitch of an aunt, which
Yeah.
peace,
Yeah.
thank God, goodbye. I apparently my brain didn't register. I thought that was just Freddy, and
Me
then he
too.
disappeared, and I was like, oh. My friend's like, that was clearly Golden Freddy. I'm like, was it though? Like, I just didn't feel like there was anything very distinguished enough for me to
It was so
tell them
slight that
apart.
the only thing that now that I know, the only thing that made me go, "Oh, okay, so that was the difference," was that Golden Freddy had the one glowing eye
Yeah.
and regular Freddy had both his eyes. So I was like, because I
Mhm.
remember making note of that when I was watching it, and I'm like, "Okay, like this Freddy looks different for some reason. Why all of a sudden is he more
Okay.
disheveled? And he's got the glowing eye. Did something happen to him? And this is like him
Mhm.
becoming the evil thing that we know him to be in the games." And then now that I know all that stuff, I'm like, "Oh, okay, so he's a whole different animatronic
Yeah.
from the other Freddy, and the
Okay.
differentiation is the eye."
Yeah. Okay, I'm glad I wasn't the only one. So I feel justified in the fact that even though I have watched hours and hours of FNAF, I completely missed that. So, okay, I feel a lot better now. Thank you. So yeah, if I say there's any note like that, I think that needed to be a little more defined.
Yeah, yeah, for
Like
sure.
yeah, I just didn't really I don't know. Maybe there's just something wrong with my brain. Maybe my brain just didn't register it, but I just yeah, maybe something a little maybe make it a little more golden. Because even in the
Right?
trailers, I was convinced that was Freddy. Um, taking because there's a shot of her standing with holding his hand by the pizzeria, which
Yep.
now we know from watching the movie, it's them bringing Abby to the pizzeria,
Mhm.
and so yeah, maybe Matt Pat in one of his prediction videos that it was Freddy, and maybe that's why in my head I was like, oh yeah, that's
Mm.
Freddy. Maybe that's why my brain was stuck. Not blaming
Yeah.
Matt Pat or anything, but maybe that's why my brain thought of it like
Probably, yeah,
that.
maybe.
But it clearly just need to be a little more defined.
Well, and 2, like, who knows, like, filmmaking wise, maybe they just couldn't get because they were trying to obviously light for the tone of the scene,
Right.
darkness, it's outside at night, so maybe they just it wasn't or it was too challenging or just it wasn't well enough to be able to distinguish that based
Mhm.
off like dimly lit, how the suit shows on camera with different lighting and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Because I didn't even recognize that the hat was purple because
Yeah.
that's the other differentiation, right? Is he's got a purple bow tie and hat. And then
Mhm.
you'd think too, like going back again, I'd have to watch the movie again, but I feel like Springtrap is a definitive yellow color, and you would think that that color
Mhm.
would match Golden Freddy because they're technically Golden
Yeah.
Bonnie and Golden Freddy, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, I guess that was my other thing too. Was it's like, yeah, if I could mistake Golden Freddy for Freddy, but see like clearly Springtrap is a yellow rabbit, like,
Yeah.
but again, who knows? Because they did also show like pictures and images and mentions of this yellow rabbit, so maybe my brain just
Yeah,
automatically
already.
differentiated. Okay, that's a yellow rabbit kind of thing, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
I would agree with that as well.
Hmm.
But yeah, I would also be curious to watch it back. And maybe if I watch it again, I'm like, oh, okay, now I see. Now I see the light. But yeah, I don't know. That was just that was the other thing I was kind of like, huh. And I guess there was another thing, but I was in the bathroom and one of the girls was like, actually, this is what happened in the game. And I was like, bro, look, I'm glad you remember the specifics, but like my brain poo poo at this point.
Yeah.
I think it was something about how the children being stuffed in the suits was different, but I was like, oh no, it was just that because it was like the mini game from the game. But
Mm.
that one I was like, to me, that's a little bit pulling hairs. Like, I don't really care at that point. Like,
Hmm.
to me, I got the gist with the 8-bit game. They're paying homage to all the secret mini games you can find in the
Right.
game. So, like I don't know. I wasn't too picky about it.
Yeah.
I was like, whatever. The same story beats happened. So,
Hmm.
I don't know.
Right? And like Matt Pat says too, it seems like they kind of switched roles with a few things just to
Mhm.
kind of maybe make it more
A
congruent for the
lot.
movie as well. So that's why, like, when I had texted you, I was only a little bit through the lore, and I was like, so is Josh Hutcherson's character, like, Michael Afton? And you're like, yes,
Yes
and
and
no.
no.
So I'm like, okay, now I get it.
Right? Like, isn't that extra confusing? Like, not only is there, like, an entire lore of the games,
Yeah.
but then there is the lore of the books, and like, I applaud Scott Coffin because that takes a lot of brain power, you know, and to have a vision for your world, you know. I will always applaud creators who can do that because I just think my brain
hands
would
down.
melt.
Again,
It
I
just
think
wouldn't
that's
function.
probably the biggest reason why I got so sucked into it is just the creativity alone. Like, even like what's his name? George R. Martin for Game of Thrones, or even like Tolkien. Like, anybody who has the brain power to think up an entire world down to the last detail, I'm like,
Yeah.
like, holy. And for him too,
Right.
like, it's not just down to the last detail. It's literally in the source code. It's literally like you have to brighten the screen to see the clues. Like, it's not just linear.
Enhance
Like,
the audio and then send it through a program so that it creates a picture with
or
the
like
audio waves.
in the VR thing, when he talks about the one gamer who like figured out how to hack getting out of the bounds of VR to go inspect the tombstone, I'm like, I would never know how to do that. I would never figure that out. Like, holy.
It's
Wow.
wild. It's wild.
Yeah.
It is. Like I said, over the moon impressed. It's incredible.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, as I guess now as we're slowly getting into, you know, you getting more into the lore, I think that's where, yeah, like sometimes it got a little sticky. And again, like, I don't know if it was just because I can't really think of dates, but I think the first FNAF game came out 2015-ish, 2016-ish, and it like it blew up for like what you couple 3 years, like it was. And I mean, I think it's still popular today, but like it was really blowing up. So I do wonder to what degree, and I think he's not secretive about it, but I just wonder because as you like watch older theories, there's like stuff where it's like, oh, like we need to figure out what's in the box. And then like I do sometimes feel like Scott has changed the lore of things. And I don't know if part of that is because it got so big. You know, maybe it's like, oh shit, like whatever I do like needs to be like I need to meet this expectation. And maybe fears of not being able to meet said expectation maybe caused him to change some things around.
Right.
Because there were a couple times where it did feel like things were changing. And I was like, okay, I can see the logic in some of this. But other times it didn't make sense. And like over the years, a lot of things have like changed. So
yeah.
I would love to know what the thought process was. Because I do think, again, like I applaud him for creating this world. He clearly had a vision. But I do wonder at what points he chose to change some things and clearly change like events. Because now that you've watched more videos, right? Like there are times where Matt has had to change things on that timeline multiple times.
Yeah. Well, even like
You know?
the one thing that sticks out in my head is like the one theory where he's talking about the television, like the soap opera that's happening on the television, and how like the guy's like, it's not my baby, the baby's not mine. I'm like, and then like there was that whole theory of like one of the kids isn't William Afton's son or Henry or whoever it was he was talking about at the time. And so I'm like, oh, okay, so there's like an adoptive child or like a child out of wedlock kind of thing or something like that.
Yeah.
Like what's this? And then I feel like that theory got scrapped after a while. And there were times too, like it was a little hard to follow. Again, shout out to Matt Pat for being able to like do all this, because he definitely like explained it in a well enough way that like you understand it. Again, I've never played the games myself, so
Same.
Being able to understand everything through his videos, like that's awesome.
And always like, you know, not too proud not to be like, hey, we make a correction.
Yeah.
Because sometimes like, you know, like, yeah, like based on the evidence we had, like this theory makes sense. But now that more stuff has come out and now it makes more sense to do that. And then the books came out and then it was like, what is going on, people?
Yep.
What is going on?
Well, even like the thing that really blew my mind was, there was the books and like having the lore from the books tie in with the games. I was like, that's really cool. But then there was this workbook that came out. and there's like all these secret messages in the workbook. I'm like, oh my god, like that's
Mhm.
genius. That's such a cool thing, especially for a fan. And like,
Yeah.
because like you're literally getting the chance in real life to basically go on a scavenger hunt and decode this mission yourself
Yeah.
or this mystery yourself. So that's really cool. But like, I'm like, whoa, that blew my mind.
It's and I mean, it also just shows again, like, how much he cares
Yeah.
about his world that he's like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna just release something
Mm-hmm.
because I'm going to find a way to integrate it and, like, yeah, as you said, like, maybe make clues for other people to follow so that
Yeah.
everyone can be a part of it,"
And
you
it's
know?
like a game within the game. So you're not just
Mhm.
enjoying playing the video game itself. There's actually a game woven throughout the whole thing to, piece the clues together to solve this like mystery of the story of Five Nights at Freddy's.
Right, and it just gets so complex and depending where you are on the internet, what you believe and stuff, like,
Mhm.
it's wild, but I think that's why I've stuck around for so many years, and I still get excited when he releases a new video
Nice.
because
Yeah.
I wanna know, like, every little bit in detail, what's the new stuff, even though I think when they introduced Phasgoo and, like, Remnant, my eyes kinda rolled to the back of my head, I was like,
Mm.
"What the actual hell are we what is this? What is
Yeah.
happening?" But, like, yeah, I always like coming back to that same story, even though it seems like now, especially once you start getting to Security Breach, it does seem like they're branching off into something new.
Mhm.
Or actually, ever since Help Wanted came out, like, they're clearly branching off and showing how the series can evolve,
Mhm.
and not
Mhm.
just stay in it has to be in pizzerias. Like, they're really expanding the world to virtual reality and, like and again, um I don't wanna shit, I don't wanna shit on people, but, like, in virtual, like, reality not virtual, but, like, when we were able to do, like, VR and have, like, the Oculus to do things, there was clearly
Mhm.
people who just made games to just be like, "You are in the game." Like, I remember at the mall, I played the Batman VR game, but, yeah, you're just Batman in a suit, like, nothing
Mhm.
super exciting. Like, maybe if I spend more time, but, he, makes a game called Help Wanted, and again, continues to expand the lore, but be like, okay, if we're doing VR, like, how do I incorporate that even more? Oh, the Springtrap virus. He's a virus. Now you get mind control. Like,
Mhm.
there's just like, yeah, I don't know. Again, I guess, yeah, back to point. He cares a lot about his world, and I just love seeing the story advance and evolve over the years.
And it just keeps it relevant in ways too, because not
Hmm.
only are you getting this like spooky ghost story of like, this horrible tragedy that happened way back in the day. Obviously, he's taken inspiration from a real life event that happened. So
Hmm.
it kind of keeps it like tied to reality in some ways, but then to do the VR, and as
Hmm.
Matt Pat was saying too, it's like, oh, really, you're now like the more you play this game and like with the AR kind of stuff, where it's like, oh, you can find these characters in your home. It's like theoretically, it's almost like you're inviting them into your home now, and now they're a part of the real world. And so that I feel like, because as we're saying, like the jump scare aspect of the original Five Nights at Freddy's kind of objective can only go so long for that
Yeah.
to be the main fear of the game. So now
Hmm.
the new fear is like, oh, what if like doing this, I'm actually unleashing these monsters into the real world kind of thing,
Hmm.
right? So yeah, that's pretty cool too.
But again, just like you kind of said though, like, isn't that wild how the first ever Five Nights at Freddy's theory was, yeah, just being like, oh, it parallels this event that happened
Mhm.
in real life. And
Yeah.
now it's gone from that to like it's wild. I think maybe a couple years ago, I just rewatched like kind of like you too, because he had the playlist. I just
Mhm.
rewatched from the beginning. And it's still amazing to watch like how
Oh
far
yeah.
it's come.
Totally.
It is it is wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think especially with I know not a lot of people like security breach as a game as a whole. Um I do really like this kind of new era. So, I am
Okay.
excited to see like what's in store.
Yeah.
I do like Vanessa's character and oh, I can't think of his I want to call him Mike, but that's not his name. The Gregory within
Mm.
Gregory's storyline. I want to continue and see where that goes, and then you have Cassidy now in the Ruin DLC. So like, I don't know. I'm just stoked to see what the future holds and
Right?
continues to.
And as you said last episode, or for the last episode of this, is if there's more movies that's going to be made, I'm interested to see, because that's the other thing too,
Right?
is like it's one thing to do a movie adaptation of a game based off the story, and another thing to somehow integrate the movie within the story that's already happening, not
Yeah.
trying to retell that story through a movie. Because that was, again, like
Mhm.
when I left the theater knowing nothing, I was like, man, it would have been great if they had like told that story that they're telling in the
Mhm.
games. But then I'm like, but at this point now, he's just like, 'cause I'm like, oh, a TV series would have been so cool for this. Like
When you
thinking of
texted me that, I was like, bro, that would have been dope.
right, like a TV series alone based off of the actual story that this whole thing is like creating would be insane. But I'm like, you know what? At this
Yeah.
point, it's pointless to do that because you're either in it for you're either following the games to figure out the
Mhm.
story yourself, or you know,
Yeah, but I really do hope they make a dirty hoop. I can't
do you hear?
apparently speak. I really hope they do make another Five Nights at Freddy's game because did you watch Matt Pat's prediction theories he had on it?
For the new movie?
Yeah.
I don't think I did. Was that the very last one?
Yeah, it was the last one he did.
Okay, yeah, no, I didn't get a chance to watch that.
Okay. Because, yeah, that kind of talks about, like, the future of, like, what potential storylines could happen going
Okay.
forward. And there's a lot where I'm like, yeah, that would be really cool to see.
Yeah,
And like you
totally.
said, like, there's no point in trying to, like, although, just saying that, I think it might be cool to pull, like a Game of Thrones thing where they do, like, a TV, like, maybe a limited short episode series on, like, the Aftons or something. Like, really just
Ooh.
focusing on, like, Matthew Lillard's character.
Yeah,
See
or
his
like
kind of downfall.
actually, yeah, recreate that
Mhm.
whole origin of him becoming Springtrap in a TV series. So then the
Right?
people who don't play the games get the chance to invest in that story too.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be really cool.
I'm throwing another Scott Coffin. You can have it for free. I have that one for free, and I would just have it for free.
Right?
But yeah,
I'll say too, also, the funny thing is that after I saw the movie in the theater, where the theater's located is in a complex with like a bunch of other restaurants and like shopping centers and stuff
hell
like that.
yeah.
There is a Chuck E. Cheese directly across from the movie theater. So when I left the theater, I was like,
Kendra was eyeing that Chuck E. Cheese, and she was like, hell to the no.
I was
You
like,
all stay there.
I need to get away right now.
You need to get the fuck out of here. You need to get the fuck
Yeah.
out of nature. You need to get the fuck out of the pizzeria.
Literal midnight motorist over here.
Oh, wow. I'm like a proud parent. I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy. But I mean, yeah, proud parent's not the right word. I'm really happy that you really enjoy all of this because it's something I really like too. And now I
Hell
feel like
yeah.
we can bond over it even more.
Well, I mean, I have to give you definite credit for getting me into more of the DC superheroes and stuff too, because watching you in college play the Batman games was what really sucked me into the like lore of the DC characters. And so I probably wouldn't, like, obviously we toured the set of Arrow and stuff like that, but I probably wouldn't have been as invested or willing to watch the show plus Flash and everything else had I not watched you play those games.
And to be fair, when we did that tour too, I had no idea. I was like, what is this? Until they were like, oh, that's Deathstroke. I'm like, wait, what? Batman?
Yeah.
Arrow? Green Arrow? What the shit?
Right? Yeah.
My brain.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible. But damn, Midnight Motors, what a reference. What a good reference. So solid. Again, that game, like, we could talk about all this Linda Gray stuff, but yeah, too, Midnight Motors, what the fuck was all that? There's nonsense about.
Literally, yeah.
Like, and it keeps changing, and poof.
Yep. But man, like, just for real, like, anybody, because like some people were asking me too when I had posted that I had gone on Instagram. They're like, "What did you see? What did you see?" And like, I'd tell them what it was, but nobody really gave any follow up of like, "What did you think of it?" and blah blah blah. So part of me wonders. Again, this is strictly me just judging. I'm not trying to be like that, but part of me wonders if because of the movie, most people tend to rely on reviews based off of if they want to go see it or not. So if you aren't a fan of the games or you don't know anything about anything, and you just go based off the reviews, do most of the people, the reason why, at least from my side of things, why nobody wanted to go see it with me was because they had no idea the freaking giant that it is.
Right. Yeah, because I don't think I checked the reviews of it. I don't know how it did critically. I think it did a lot. I think, as I figured, probably had a higher audience score.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was like a lot of things that were clearly like from the games or references to the games. So like, yeah, a movie critic probably wouldn't know that or care,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah,
'Cause
I hope
just
people give it a chance.
right? Yeah, and just to know alone that, like, again, it's not like everyone. It's like, oh yeah, it's for the fans. So I get that that can be the initial turnoff, but it's like, no, you don't
Yeah.
understand. These people are solving a mystery right now. There's literal clues that they're trying to search for in this movie. So if they're going to see this movie and they're liking it, there's a reason why. It's
Mhm.
it's not that you're not going to get it. You probably won't, but they're literally like doing work. They're not just enjoying a movie. They're literally like freaking
Mhm.
sleuthing everything throughout this movie.
They're
So
solving
and
puzzles. Puzzles?
Puzzles?
Puzzles? Jesus Christ, Kaylee, get your
So
fucking
like
shit together.
so that alone, that just makes me have such appreciation for it. And I'm like, okay, I get it. I understand.
Well, I'm over the moon. I'm very happy. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you enjoyed your deep dive. Because yeah, you said you've only just touched Security Breach.
Yeah.
Just wait for the craziness.
Oh,
Security
Lord.
Breach is gonna have the drama that comes out of Security Breach is 10 out of 10.
Oh
Mwah.
boy, I'm excited. And to like figure out too, like, again, obviously I'll have to like watch the last video of Game Theory, but like knowing what that machine was in the movie too, which clearly is not clear,
Yeah.
it sounds like, from what I've seen.
Right.
It's like the remnant extractor is one of the theories, or
I
like
honestly I think that's probably what it
okay.
At least that's the vibe I got. But yes, there were a couple things for the movie where I was like, what is this? But I do wonder if some of it was just kind of made to make it a little more mainstreamy for people.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if you're like, I think if a character says, this is a remnant machine, I don't know as a moviegoer, I'd probably be like, what the fuck?
Right? Well, it was just interesting too because that was technically the opening scene of the movie, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess, and like looking through all the lore and stuff like that, like no one they explain that he extracts the remnants, but they don't show like how he does. So I guess maybe that is like the physical manifestation of what it would be. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a couple things, and that's why I hope there's a sequel.
Yeah, for sure.
That'd be cool. I want them to go. I want them to film at the mall at Security Breach. I want that mall to come to life. And again, I know I shouldn't make this connection, but Dead by Daylight, I would love to play on that map.
Ooh, damn,
Please make that real. Because I know like Five Nights, they did a vote. I guess it's probably more than a year ago plus now of like what like brand like licenses people wanted to see. And Five Nights was up there. And I'm like, yes, have that map, please. You have to face off against Springtrap. It'd be chef's kiss.
Yeah, like there's so many other questions that I have like from the movie just alone to like figure out like for like continuing going forward what's going to happen. And just like now I'm starting to like think of everything like knowing like the scenes where his brother gets taken and like in that car, and it's like that's the reference to like the purple guy like in his car driving away kind of thing. And then what was the, oh yeah, like we don't even, because I'm assuming, at least from what Pat was saying, is Abby is the anagram or whatever of baby. And so I'm like, okay, so what's the connection there? Are they going to show that? And then yeah,
so many questions and more.
Right? Yes. But I mean, so I guess to summarize it all up, as a filmmaker, as a avid enjoyer of movies, seeing this, I would have to say I enjoyed it not knowing what was going on, and enjoy it even more now that I do. And just like
yay!
Shout out to Scott Cawthon, the creator of the game, and the wild and crazy maze and ride that he's like taking this whole franchise on. And also just shout out to the filmmakers for doing it the way they did. Because I'm like truly like, if they had like, obviously I'm sure there was some CGI and some stuff in there, but if they hadn't gone to the lengths that they did to really create this world, I feel like it probably just wouldn't have been as good, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like it's still reminiscent of the games. You still have all the stuff, and just knowing that those animatronics were literal puppets. I'm like, I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's just from a filmmaking standpoint, I'm like, yes, good job for the way it was done. Story-wise, I'm sure it's confusing as shit to some people, but obviously, if you don't know what's happening, that explains why.
Guess what, though? We think we know more, but we don't. We're just as confused.
Mm-hmm.
And we've watched hours of online content, so really, you're not alone.
Right? And yeah, like, okay, so I guess the two things that scared me the most out of watching the movie was definitely Springtrap. And then seeing that at the end where he's like doing the twitching and stuff like that, like after like knowing that that's how he dies in the game or in the mini games, and like he's just kind of like twitching there and stuff like that. I'm like, ooh, wow, that's creepy. And then the second is the Foxy, is it Foxy, where he does like that dum 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 dum. I'm like, whoa, like that's just creepy. Oh god, like just anything like that where it's like you just hear, oh yeah, Arnie. You just hear like random weird noises coming from behind you. I'm like, like that's creepy.
We know how to get Kendra now.
Yeah, so yeah.
Good
job, guys. Good job.
Yay, good job. Yes, we can't wait for future installments of games, books, cookbooks, whatever you got.
Oh god, the cookbook. Oh my lord.
I know, when Kendra texted me when she discovered the workbook, I was like, bruh, get ready for the cookbook that's gonna come out. And she's like, a what?
Jesus.
What is that?
Yeah. But yeah, you guys can bet that we will be jumping on the FNAF bandwagon and doing our own interpretations, reviews, impressions of it. So if you're a fan, stick around. And if you're not and you are interested, we both come highly recommended, 2 thumbs up, that you go dive into the world of FNAF. If there's any sort of storytelling, modern day storytelling within, the last few years that is worth checking out, for there's the mass amounts of creativity alone, this is definitely one of them, I would say.
I concur.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that'll bye, Arnie. I think he knows too. That'll do it for today's podcast. Yep. And he just yeeted out of there.
Yep. He's like, oh, you're done? Okay, bye.
Right. I hope you enjoyed this Five Nights at Freddy's centric episode. Very reminiscent when we do Stranger Things or do, a solo episode. So hopefully, again, not saying anything, but Scott Coffin, maybe you should make another movie or something and we could talk about you more.
Heck yeah.
Just saying. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Leave a little comment down below. Have you watched the Five Nights at Freddy's movie? Are you a fan of Five Nights, or have you never been introduced in Five Nights at Freddy's? For some reason, this is your first introduction. If it is, I'm sorry. You should go check out other people. But consider leaving us a little like-see, because we have fun doing these. And consider subscribing to 2 pretty cool gals, in my opinion. And yeah, watch all the content, and we'll see you next time, because we'll always come back. Yep, Happy New Year, baby.
We'll always come back. Okay.
Monkey and I thought I'd try one too.
Oh, good. I almost missed it, and then I was like, wait a second, that's a reference.